Hello again, folks. How are we doing? It's time for that rare second video of the day. Today is March the 3rd, 2022. It's about 1 o'clock in the afternoon down here in Tampa, Florida. Hi. Back to Ukraine. So much to choose from these days. To start off with. Facebook is now allowing praise of neo-Nazi Ukrainian battalion if it fights the Russian invasion. Critics say it lacks nuance and context. Nuance, context. Here's the nuance and the context. Here you go, boys and girls. That is the Azov Battalion's fucking banner. That is something they fly in their homes. That, boys and girls, is not a guy who was kicked off Facebook because he was a Trump supporter a year ago. And Facebook decided all Trump supporters are neo-Nazis. And they aren't Nazis. Neo or otherwise. That guy was not a fucking neo-Nazi. That guy is. That guy will shoot a black man, will spit on a gay person, and will stuff a Jewish person in a fucking oven. That's what he is. And according to Facebook, that's just fucking peachy keen. Because Russia bad. This video is going to be entitled, Fascism Makes Strange Bedfellows. The Intercept and Sean Hannity sitting in a tree. You know the rest of that one, don't you? K-I-S-S-I-N-G. Very odd. Very odd bedfellows. Here is Sean Hannity. And Sean Hannity, listen, people are talking about Tucker Carlson and this, that, and the other. Tucker Carlson's no better. Because he says, we all hate Putin. Every right-thinking person hates Putin. Over and over again. He says, we don't really know what the outcome of a fucking war against Russia would be, so we need to think about that. But we all hate Putin and want Putin to go away. We don't all hate Putin. In fact, Putin's done some decent shit. I could actually include James Corbett in that with the Intercept, Corbett, and Sean Hannity sitting in a tree. We can do that too if you like. We all know James Corbett's a neoliberal. He calls himself an anarchist. He calls himself a what's his fucking a narco-libertarian, whatever the fuck he is. Look at the economic ideology of the libertarians and the neoliberals. In fact, at one point in time, about 4 years ago, the head of the fucking Libertarian Party said we should just call ourselves neoliberals and be done with it. He said that. You can look that shit the fuck up. We'll start off with Sean Hannity. Sean Hannity has an interesting fucking idea. Let's take a look and see what it says. Wait a minute. Putin says. Nope. I do have that picture. I'll share that with you. Hang on one second. Here we go.
If you invade an innocent country and you kill women and children and men, you forfeit your right to lead a country and you forfeit your right to live. And I hope that people around Vladimir Putin, well, I hope they take action sooner than later. Now, currently, the U.S. operates under a decades-old executive order, first signed by President Gerald Ford. It prohibits the U.S. government employees from engaging in political assassination. But my final question tonight is, when it comes to Putin, is it time to now revisit the rule, my rule I like better? New rule, you invade a sovereign country, you kill innocent men, women, and children, you forfeit your right to run a country and you forfeit your right to live.
Okay, seems like a simple rule, doesn't it? You say the far right is in support of Putin and Russia. Of course they're not. Sean Hannity would certainly classify as the far right. So would Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson is saying the exact same thing, only he's not coming right out and suggesting they kill him, but he certainly suggests they remove him because everyone hates the evil Putin, right? And every time he mentions the word Russia, he says that same fucking thing, almost verbatim, exactly the same way. Let's take him at his word, Sean Hannity. Here we go. Facebook says you can praise him, so praise him. Go ahead and praise him now. Do it now. Don't stop. Praise him now. Let's take a look at what he just said. Sean Hannity just said, if you invade a country illegally and you kill women and children, you forfeit your right to lead and you forfeit your right to live. Jimmy Carter did 4 years, if I'm not mistaken. Reagan came along. They fucking did that whole goddamn thing to get him out, and then Reagan came in. And then, of course, after Reagan was George H.W. Bush. So Reagan was 80. That means 76 was Carter. So let's start with Argentina, 76. Angola, 76. Turkey, 1980. Poland, 1980 through 81. So that starts right there for Argentina, Angola, Turkey, and Poland. Either an attempted regime change, sabotage, bombing attacks. Angola, certainly. Jimmy Carter has to be killed, according to Sean Hannity. Let's continue. Well, we know Reagan's already gone. However, 1980 through 88 would be Reagan, so we can knock all those off. But then 88, Iran, Libya, Philippines, and Panama, and Haiti, and then Iraq in 91 and Kuwait in 91. That would be George H.W. Bush. Is that fucker still alive? If he is, according to Sean Hannity, he should be killed immediately. Let's go with 1992. Starting with 1992 to 2000, we got Bill Clinton. Somalia, Iraq, Bosnia, Iraq, Sudan, Afghanistan, Yugoslavia, and then that's it. Afghanistan, Yugoslavia. So, certainly for Yugoslavia and Bosnia and Somalia, Bill Clinton has to be killed. According to Sean Hannity, we got to kill Bill Clinton. We'll continue now. So after that, then we had George W. Bush, starting off in 2001. Afghanistan, he's dead. Iraq, he's already dead. Yemen, he started that off, he's dead. Haiti, he's dead. Somalia, he's dead. Iran, again, we started with we've done some fucking regime change, color revolutionaries in Iran who staged attacks. He's dead. So he's gone. So every single president still living thus far is dead, according to Sean Hannity. They all need to be put to death. Let's not stop there. So we have Barack Obama from 2008 to 2016. So we have Honduras, Libya, Syria, Brazil, and there was more. There was more than that, but he continued bombing in other countries and continued killing people, of course, in Iraq and Afghanistan. So we got to put a bullet in his head too, according to Sean Hannity on national television. He's called for the execution of every single living ex-president that we have, including from 2016 to 2020, a guy by the name of a personal favorite of his, Donald Trump. Trump continued his fucking shit, killing people and civilians in Syria, Brazil, Bolivia, Venezuela, Guyana. And of course, he continued bombing people in Afghanistan and Iraq and Somalia. So, Trump, Obama, George W. Bush, Bill Clinton if he's still alive, George H.W. Bush and fucking Jimmy Carter. According to Sean Hannity, all 6 living presidents must be put to death. You think he really means that? Of course not. Because then he'd also have to kill leaders in his glorious Israel. So we know he doesn't mean that. But he's going to say that stupid shit to his people. Let's go to the first connection I was trying to make, and that is to the Intercept. Here is the Intercept, owned by Pierre Omidyar, by the way, who was very influential in funding the color revolution, using neo-Nazis, using these guys in 2014. Using that guy. Here he is with John McCain, and here he is with, we all know who Victoria Nuland is. So he was influential, obviously, in that. And you can go read Mark Ames's article from Pando there from 2014. That's where some of the money came from. The rest came from the National Endowment for Democracy and George Soros, but that's where some of the money came from. Pierre Omidyar, the guy who owns this. Don't be a tanky. How the left should respond to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. With Russia's massive invasion of Ukraine from 3 directions, Russian President Vladimir Putin seems determined to overthrow Ukraine's government and install a puppet regime. If he persists in this mad act of imperial aggression, it would be catastrophic not only for Ukraine, but also for Russia and for all of Europe, and maybe even the entire world. With his forces encircling Kiev but bogged down after 5 days of heavy combat, Putin has placed Russia's nuclear forces on alert. If you identify as a leftist, wherever you live and whatever your nationality, your duty is now to stand by the people of Ukraine as they resist the Russian state terrorism. Your duty, much like what Facebook says, your duty is to not only praise him for being willing to shoot black people, spit on fucking gays, and stuff Jewish people in fucking ovens, you must fucking stand with him, which means you also need to shoot black people, spit on gays, and stuff Jews in fucking ovens. According to Pierre Omidyar's The Intercept. If you're a leftist. Let me dive into something for you quickly. What really ended the Vietnam War? People say it was the Pentagon Papers. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Was it the musical Hair? Or was it the fucking hippie dippies running around getting fucking high and fucking each other and never taking a bath? Probably not. What it was the soldiers were starting to refuse to fight. Why? Fox Tango Alpha. Fuck the Army. Why? Because they were getting information from left-leaning or just genuinely journalistic newspapers and outlets, which were telling them interesting stuff about what we were doing there, why we were there, who we were killing, and who we were in service of while we were there. So the Army started getting wind of this stuff and reading this stuff and understanding this stuff and sharing it with themselves. And they lost the will to stay over there and do this. And so Fox Tango Alpha, Fuck the Army, became a movement. And if you don't have the support of your own goddamn soldiers, you're not going to win that fucking war. Yes, it was losing a lot of popularity. It started off big, but then it started to fucking peter out. And when more and more information came filtering through, people started to say, what the fuck are we doing over there? It wasn't just the hippy dippies, but regular people with regular people haircuts started saying, what the fuck is going on? Too many goddamn people died. 56,000 people died. And for what? What the Intercept is doing here is trying to keep that from happening. They don't want that to happen. The right is on board. Shit, they think we should kill fucking Putin. Assassinate him. Even people like Tucker Carlson are saying, yeah, well, but every time he mentions Russia, he's got to say, but we all hate Putin, right? We all hope Putin is fucking regime changed, right? Well, so right now, everybody, including fucking Facebook, is all about fucking regime changing Russia and getting behind that movement. They don't want another goddamn Iraq situation where there's a big fucking lead up, anti-war lead up, to us invading fucking Iraq based on lies. So now they've learned their lessons and they're pre-spinning the fucking story and they're telling you how you're supposed to fucking think. Well, is it just them? No, it isn't. Have a listen to a little bit of this shit from this goddamn fuckwit, James Corbett. Again, libertarian. He recently said, we just need to free up the markets. Need to free up the markets. Well, that's exactly what they're trying to do, is free up those markets in Russia. That's exactly what they did with Ukraine when they overthrew the elected Yanukovych so that they could come in there, they could bring their hot money speculators, and they could force them to take the IMF fucking loan. They freed up those markets, baby. They'd love to do that with fucking Russia. If you get rid of Putin, hell, you can go back to the glorious days of Yeltsin. That's a heyday. It's a payday for the big banks, which is why the World Economic Forum has taken a side. These guys will tell you they haven't taken a side, but we know they have. Have a listen to some of the bullshit they're about to spew your way.
I've lived in Russia for about 7 years now, 8 years maybe. It's really fascinating how Sputnik V gets this sort of free pass, I would say. The reality is that Sputnik V is maybe one of the sketchiest vaccines out there. Well, for one thing, there's almost no real data on it.
Okay. Sputnik V is a Russian adenovirus viral vector vaccine. You shoot me, I'm a goddamn former carpenter. But that's what it is. It's not an mRNA vaccine. It's also not the typical vaccines that you used to get, or that there's still a couple out there now, even for this, that give you a small dose of the unattenuated, a weak dose of the fucking COVID-19, so that your body can create actual fucking antibodies to fight it off. It is a DNA-based vaccine, so it is a code-based vaccine, but it is not the mRNA code replacing vaccine. That's the difference. The other difference is it was designed and started off as a one-shot, one-time and done vaccine, and according to the actual stuff they have really released, he's just lying through his teeth, actual data that they've actually released, it is more effective, which is not saying a whole lot, than the mRNA vaccines, which is not saying a whole lot because the mRNA vaccines aren't really vaccines. So all that said, is it sketchier than the other vaccines? No, not at all. But that's not the worst thing that these two lying pieces of shit say. Have a listen.
Because the Russian government doesn't even have a VAERS system. not only do they not have any sort of system for that, but someone in the Russian legislature requested the government to release the most recent Sputnik V clinical trial data. And they said they couldn't do it because it's classified trade secret. The point is that this is like all the rest of the shots. And Russia has adopted coercive policies that have basically forced Russians to choose between their livelihoods and getting this shot. Am I saying that it's worse in Russia? Not necessarily, but it's just the same, you know? It's exactly what's happening everywhere else.
Almost like it's following some sort of, I don't know, World Economic Forum agenda or something. But that's just a load of hooey. It's not like Russia and the Kremlin and Putin are connected to the World Economic Forum, right?
Right? Don't pick a side. I did that video before. Don't pick a side. They're all the fucking same. Except James Corbett's lying to you. And this individual's lying to you. Putin says he won't pursue fines or prosecuted unvaccinated people in Russia. Scott, that must be disinformation from RT or Sputnik. No, that's the New York Times. That must have been a year ago. No, that was December 23rd, 2021. President Vladimir Putin of Russia said on Thursday that he had no plans to impose fines or criminally prosecute people hesitant to be vaccinated against the coronavirus, even though Russia has one of the lowest vaccination levels in Europe. About 56% of the country's population is inoculated against the virus, and the government has not introduced vaccine mandates. The government has not introduced vaccine mandates. The government has not introduced vaccine mandates. Putin said Russians are inventive people, and therefore, whenever you start to push, they'll find ways to circumvent that. We need to relate to people with respect, despite their positions, he said, and to patiently explain the need to inoculate. Let me try that again. Russia has not introduced vaccine mandates. Ergo, they're lying to you. They're lying to you. Because whether it's tacitly supporting someone or openly supporting something, or supporting it by keeping your mouth fucking shut, it's the same. The ultimate tragedy is not the oppression and cruelty by bad people, but the silence over that by the good people. That's Martin Luther King Jr. Don't pick a side. And Putin's just the same, exact same as fucking... No, he's not. Biden said we weren't going to do any mandates when he was running for office. As soon as he got in office, what did he say? Mandates. He tried to fucking impose mandates. The Supreme Court stopped him from doing that. He did impose mandates through OSHA. Believe it or not, the Supreme Court changed that. But they're exactly the same, Biden and Putin. Let me finish with this. Because everybody out there isn't the same on this topic. At least not really on the left. You do have some good work being done by well-meaning researchers and writers. This is one. This is from The Last American Vagabond, and this is written by Whitney Webb. Ukraine and the new Al-Qaeda. The eruption of war between Russia and Ukraine appears to have given the CIA the pretext to launch a long-planned insurgency in the country. One poised to spread far beyond Ukraine's borders with major implications for Biden's, quote, war on domestic terror. As the conflict between Ukraine and Russia continues to escalate and dominate the world's attention, the increasing evidence that the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency is and has been working to create an arm an insurgency in the country Jesus Christ. is and has been working to create an armed insurgency in the country has received considerably little attention considering its likely consequences. Come on. Come on with me. This is particularly true given that the former CIA officials and the former Secretary of State are now openly saying that the CIA is following models of past CIA-backed insurgencies in Afghanistan and Syria for its plans in Ukraine, given that those countries have been ravaged by war as a direct result of those insurgencies. This bodes poorly for Ukraine. A long, in-depth article from her talking about this, the coming Ukrainian insurgency. Let me toss this out there for you, just for the record. I agree with her, and I certainly haven't finished the whole article, and I'm going to, and we'll be able to discuss this later, hopefully, in an interview with Whitney. But it goes back beyond. It goes back beyond Iraq and Afghanistan, Syria and Iraq, or Syria and Afghanistan. What they're talking about, and it's amazing that we're seeing it develop right now, right in front of our very eyes. But what they're talking about is a new Gladio, because that's what Gladio was all about to start with. After World War II, we did not want countries swinging too far back to the left on that pendulum, and so we installed these stay-behind fucking armies, which, when that started to happen, because there was a government that was too far left, as a reaction to the fascist war that was run by Italy and Japan and Germany, what they did was they started fucking campaigns of terrorism, sabotage, kidnapping, explosions, blaming the quote-unquote Red Army, the socialists, so that they could force countries to abandon that swing to the fucking left and move back comfortably for them to the right. That's what Gladio was all about. If you think about that in terms of what has happened with Ukraine, that is exactly what has happened with Ukraine, using individuals that look like this, who you are supposed to right now support on Facebook. Stand with, according to the Intercept. And not really, it's one thing or the other in terms of James Corbett and the Corbett Report. One's just as bad as the other, Scott. It's not quite true. You ever seen American History X? You should pull that up. So yes, I do agree. They are trying to create another Al-Qaeda, another fucking useful stay-behind fucking army. Whether they will remain in Ukraine or they will spread their little fucking fingers of hatred and destabilization to places like Russia and, of course, Belarus and other nations that are not sufficiently right enough for them remains to be seen. But that certainly appears to be, according to her research, and I've got to finish reading it, but according to her research, that certainly appears to be where they're going with this. And if you take all the propaganda that you're being force-fed from people like Sean Hannity, from people like places like the Intercept, and of course from the Corbett Report, if you take this fucking propaganda at face value, you're either ready to kill fucking Putin yourself, stand with the fucking Nazis as they piss on fucking anybody that's not fucking Aryan, or of course sit around and refuse to take a side because they're just as bad over there as they are over there. So I'll just wipe my hands of it. And there will be no pushback against what we are doing in Ukraine with the intent of what's happening in Russia. You see, that's what people don't really understand. Why did they go through all this? Why do we go ahead and tell the Ukrainians to start lobbing shells into the Donbass breakaway republics? Well, I wasn't there, but I give you what my opinion is. They needed to, first of all, distract from today's previous video what's happening with their fucking Rona and their vaccine situation. But secondly, and more importantly, I guess, the intention is to allow banks to seize everything they can seize, to do their little fucking dirty work like they did to people who were vaccine hesitant and truck drivers in Canada, because it's really the banks who are doing this to us. But to allow them to put physical hardships on the people of Russia to the point where the people of Russia will eventually say nothing, or maybe even get involved in the removal of Vladimir Putin from office, because Vladimir Putin does stand in our way in certain fucking regards, in certain aspects, one of which is Syria. Bashar al-Assad would be gone if it wasn't for fucking Russia. He would be gone. And Russia is financially supporting other countries that we would like to see regime changed. So even though they tell you it's all the same, Russia is the exact same as the United States, is the exact same as Ukraine, is the exact same as Canada, is the exact same as fucking Australia, because World Economic Forum, that's not necessarily the fucking truth. Now, I'm not saying, and I've said this a million times, I'll say it one more time, I'm not saying Russia's fucking perfect. They did nothing when we were fucking destroying fucking Libya. They did nothing when we were and they're still doing nothing as we're destroying fucking Yemen. They did nothing to stop us from attacking fucking Iraq and Afghanistan. Did absolutely fucking nothing. And Syria, at least Syria, they're helping with, but that's only because it's a pipeline. There's a lot of pipelines in fucking Ukraine. So, they look out for their interests, like every other country. Does that mean they're in bed with the World Economic Forum? No. No, it does not. Do they do business with the World Economic Forum? Of course they do. Because it's 2,000 of the fucking biggest goddamn businesses in the world. And the world is a business, Mr. Beale. But like all businesses aren't the exact same, neither are all nations. Do yourself a favor. Go by. Don't go by and read that shit, though I will post a link to it. But do go by and read this from Whitney Webb. Maybe send her a little comment, leave her a comment, say hi to her. She's just gotten back with her new baby, and she's doing the nesting thing, but she's still working and she's still writing. So go by and say hi to her and show her some love. I thank you guys for your time, and I will talk to you next time. Have a good Thursday, folks.